If you heard or you read the readings at Mass today, you might have noticed an apparent contradiction. So in the first reading, in the book of Deuteronomy, God says to the people, I set before you life and death, choose life. And then in the Gospels, Jesus says, if you want to be my disciple, you must lose your life. So on the one hand, in the Old Testament, God tells to his people, choose life. And in the Gospels, Jesus says, you must lose your life if you want to be my disciple. So what's going on here? And I could see a skeptic or a cynic saying, look, see a blatant contradiction in the Bible. This book is done. I'm not going to believe what it says. But the truth is that there's a much deeper meaning in the words than what's simply there at first glance. You see, Jesus is not asking his disciples to give up life, period, or to not choose life, period. He's inviting them to lose a form of life, or better said, a false life, a life of counterfeit that leads up ultimately in misery and death. You see, the truth is that every day, every moment, there's a battle going on for our souls, a battle between good and evil. The trouble, though, is that the evil side doesn't often present itself in very obvious ways as truly evil. The evil side doesn't present itself like what you would see in an exorcism movie or in Paranormal Activity. I mean, if it were only that simple, if evil presented itself in that way all the time, then it would be much easier to recognize and to reject. But the evil one, being really clever, often presents life as a counterfeit or a counterfeit form of life. And a big part of choosing life, as God says in the first reading, involves exposing the deceptions, exposing the counterfeit forms of life that the evil one presents to us. Here's two tools that most of the spiritual masters seem to agree give us the best chance of exposing this counterfeit, the enemy's deceptions. Those two tools are time and silence. Time and silence. Try this today. Sometime today, take a bit of time. It doesn't need to be long, but just something intentional. Take some time in silence, so maybe shut off your devices, and ask yourself this question. What kind of things am I doing on a daily basis that seem to give me life, that seem to give me a lift, but soon afterwards make me feel empty, and sometimes even a tinge of sadness? That's a counterfeit form of life. And these things don't often necessarily need to be bad or sinful things, although if they are, we know what to do with them. But they could be seemingly harmless things. You know, St. Ignatius of Loyola, he had his great awakening one day when he realized that all the fantasy and adventure books that he'd been reading in the hospital when he was in convalescence, so basically our version of constantly video streaming, when he consumed that material, it excited him for a while, but ultimately it left him feeling empty and dry and even sad. But when he said he read deeper material that caused him to imitate the lives of the saints and imitate Christ, he said when he read that and pondered on it, he felt truly alive, not some cheap counterfeit form of life. So the challenge for us today is to choose life, but doing this by rejecting the false or imitation forms of life that the devil or the evil one presents us with, which are at first tricky to spot because the evil one is pretty clever, but through time and silence, they become easily exposed.